In a small town tucked away in Indiana, life seemed peaceful for most families. It was the kind of place where neighbors waved at each other from their porches, and children played outside until the streetlights came on. Among these families was a young woman named Kayla, just 25 years old, trying to rebuild her life after a difficult breakup. She had a daughter named Lily, a bright-eyed 6-year-old who loved drawing, singing, and telling stories about imaginary worlds she created. In her mind, to Lily, her mother was her entire world. When Kayla met Brandon, a 19-year-old with a charming smile and smooth words, she thought she had finally found someone who cared. Brandon wasn't just her boyfriend. He became her hope for a better life. He told her he loved her, said he wanted to help raise Lily, and promised them both a future filled with happiness. Kayla believed every word. She had been lonely for too long, and Brandon's attention felt like safety. Soon, Brandon moved into their small rental house on a quiet suburban street. At first, things seemed fine. Neighbors often saw Brandon playing with Lily in the front yard, lifting her up to reach the tree branches or pushing her gently on a swing. People thought he was a good young man stepping into a father's role. But inside the house, things were slowly changing. Brandon wasn't as patient as he seemed. When Kayla wasn't around, his tone grew sharp, his eyes cold. He didn't like Lily's questions, her loud singing, or her playful games. Little by little, he started controlling everything in the house. He told Kayla what to cook, when to clean, and how to discipline Lily. At first, Kayla resisted, but Brandon's words were like poison, seeping into her thoughts. He said Lily was too soft, too spoiled, and that she needed real discipline. Kayla, afraid of losing him, began to agree. Brandon's frustration toward Lily turned into harsh scolding. When she cried, he called her weak. Kayla started scolding Lily too, believing it was the right thing to toughen her up. But what Kayla didn't know was that when she left for her night shifts, Brandon's punishments grew darker. Lily was too young to understand why her new dad was suddenly so mean. Why the man who once pushed her on swings now grabbed her arm too tightly or locked her in her room for hours. Neighbors began to notice small things. Lily didn't smile as much. She stopped playing outside. Her once joyful voice grew quieter, but no one asked questions. People assumed Kayla knew what was best for her daughter. Brandon's charm kept suspicions away. He still waved to neighbors, still smiled when he passed people on the street. No one saw the real Brandon, the one Lily saw every night. Behind the closed door of their home, a nightmare was growing. Kayla believed she had found a new beginning, but what she had invited into her home was something far more dangerous. Every passing day, Lily's world grew darker, and no one was watching closely enough to see the storm that was about to erupt. Asterisk as the weeks turned into months, small warning signs began to appear. Lily, once full of life and energy, became quieter. Her bright laughter faded. She stopped drawing pictures for her teachers. People noticed the change, but everyone found simple explanations. Maybe she was adjusting to the new family situation. Maybe she was just growing up. But the truth was much darker. One morning, a teacher at Lily's school noticed bruises on her arms. They were small, in odd shapes, like someone had grabbed her too tightly. When the teacher asked about them, Lily said she fell off her bike. It was believable enough. The teacher made a note and moved on, never thinking to push further. After all, Lily smiled weakly and didn't seem afraid to speak out at home. Kayla saw the bruises too. She told herself the same thing the teacher believed. Children fall, especially playful ones like Lily. She ignored her instincts, the small voice in her head that told her something was wrong. Kayla trusted Brandon. She believed his constant reassurances that Lily was just clumsy, always running too fast, always careless. Brandon's calm explanations kept Kayla from looking deeper. But what Kayla didn't know was how Brandon was changing behind her back. He became more controlling, more aggressive when she wasn't around. When Lily cried after being punished, Brandon would scold her harder. He told her to stop being weak, to stop acting like a baby. And when she begged him to stop, he only grew angrier. What began as harsh words soon turned into physical punishments. He started grabbing Lily by the arms, shaking her when she didn't listen. He would lock her in her room for hours, taking away her meals if she cried too much. Brandon found satisfaction in breaking Lily's spirit. She was small and helpless, and he controlled every moment of her life when Kayla was away. Kayla didn't see these moments. Brandon made sure of that. When she was home, he acted gentle, playful even. He convinced Kayla that Lily needed stricter rules, that she was misbehaving behind her back. Slowly, Kayla's mind was manipulated. She started doubting her daughter. She believed Brandon when he said Lily was acting out for attention. So when Lily cried at night, Kayla thought her daughter was simply being difficult. Neighbors, too, saw changes they didn't understand. Lily no longer played in the yard. She stayed inside, watching from the window with sad eyes. Her clothes were sometimes wrinkled or stained, her hair not brushed. But people assumed Kayla was just tired, working hard as a single mother. Brandon still smiled and waved when he saw neighbors. No one suspected anything. At school, Lily's bruises increased. They appeared on her back, her legs, even her neck. Each time she had an excuse ready. She fell, she bumped into something. She tripped while running. Teachers noted the bruises, but no one reported them. No one wanted to believe that such a young child could be living in danger, right in their quiet neighborhood. Lily was trapped. She was too young to explain the pain she was enduring. She didn't understand why her mother no longer believed her. She felt alone, scared, an invisible. By the time anyone started questioning the strange things happening in Kayla's house, it was already too late. The bruises everyone ignored were the first warnings. But behind the bruises, a nightmare far worse was waiting to be uncovered. It was a cold November night when everything changed forever. Kayla had to work a late shift, something she had done many times before. She left Lily alone with Brandon, trusting him to take care of her daughter like a responsible adult. In her mind, Brandon was strict, but he cared. She had no reason to believe that leaving him alone with Lily would lead to disaster. Inside the small house, Lily sat quietly at the kitchen table, too scared to speak. Brandon watched her closely, his frustration building over something as small as her refusing to finish her dinner. He accused her of being ungrateful, lazy, and stubborn. When she looked down in fear, he snapped. Something inside him broke that night. All the anger he had hidden from the world boiled over, and Lily became his target. At first, it started like other punishments. He yelled. He pushed her chair back roughly. But this time, he didn't stop. His rage took a darker form. Brandon grabbed Lily with violent hands, but then, in a horrifying twist, he began to bite her. Not playful bites, but brutal, savage attacks meant to cause pain. His teeth sank deep into her skin, leaving behind torn flesh and blood. Lily screamed, but her cries were swallowed by the thick walls of the small house. No one heard. No one came. Brandon kept biting her over and over, her arms, her shoulders, her back, her legs, anywhere he could reach. His anger turned into something sick and uncontrolled. The more she cried, the more furious he became. He told himself he was teaching her a lesson, but what he was really doing was torturing a helpless child. Lily's small body couldn't take the pain. Her skin broke open under the pressure of his teeth. Blood soaked her pajamas. She begged for help, but her voice grew weaker with every minute. Eventually, she stopped screaming. She went quiet, her body too weak to resist. Brandon, seeing her collapse, stepped back in shock. Reality hit him, but it was too late. Panicking, Brandon tried to cover up what he had done. He cleaned the blood from her body using wet towels. He changed her into clean pajamas. He wrapped some of the deeper wounds in bandages, hoping to hide the damage. Then, he carried her small, lifeless body to her bed, pretending nothing had happened. He sat in silence, watching her chest, hoping she would start breathing again. But she didn't. Hours passed and Lily's room remained silent. Brandon didn't call for help. He didn't tell anyone. He simply waited, paralyzed by fear. Asterisk. By the time morning came, Lily's small body was cold. Her skin pale, her hair matted with dried blood. She looked like a child who had simply fallen asleep, but the hidden horrors beneath her pajamas told a much darker story. When Kayla returned home, she had no idea what she was walking into. She saw Brandon acting strangely calm, pacing the house like nothing was wrong. He told her Lily was still sleeping. But the truth was waiting in that small bedroom, behind a closed door. The nightmare was far from over. The real horror was just about to be discovered. And when it was, the entire town would be shaken by the unspeakable cruelty hidden inside that house. Asterisk. When Kayla stepped inside the house that morning, something felt wrong. The air felt heavy, the silence too deep. Brandon stood in the living room, his eyes empty, pacing slowly. He told her Lily was asleep, but there was no warmth in his voice. Confused, Kayla rushed to her daughter's bedroom, her heart pounding. She opened the door, expecting to see her little girl curled up peacefully, but what she found shattered her world. Lily lay still on the bed, her skin pale, her lips blue. Her small body was stiff and cold. Her face looked peaceful, as if she had drifted off to sleep, but Kayla knew immediately something was wrong. Lily wasn't breathing. Panicking, Kayla screamed for help. She called 911, her voice shaking as she begged them to come quickly. Paramedics arrived within minutes, but as soon as they saw Lily, their faces changed. They knew this wasn't a case of a child passing quietly in her sleep. Something far worse had happened. As they examined Lily's body, they uncovered the horror hidden beneath her pajamas. Her skin was covered in wounds. Deep, brutal bite marks. Some were fresh, still oozing blood. Others were older, half-healed scars. There were more than 50 wounds covering her body. Her arms, her shoulders, her back, her legs, no part of her had been spared. Some bites were so deep they exposed bone. Medical staff had never seen anything like it. Kayla collapsed when they told her. She couldn't believe it. She had trusted Brandon. She had left her daughter in his care. And now, her little girl was dead. Police officers arrived quickly after paramedics. Brandon didn't try to run. He stood frozen in the corner of the living room, silent. When they handcuffed him, he didn't resist. His calmness was unsettling. Like he didn't understand the severity of what he had done. Kayla was taken to the hospital, unable to process what had happened. At first, she told police that Brandon couldn't have hurt her child. She believed Lily must have fallen or gotten hurt in some horrible accident, but the evidence was undeniable. The medical examiner confirmed that Lily's death had been caused by blood loss and shock from the extensive bite wounds. This wasn't an accident, this was torture. News spread quickly. The quiet neighborhood was shaken. Reporters gathered outside the house, their cameras pointed at the front door where the tragedy had taken place. People stood on sidewalks, staring in disbelief. How had no one seen the signs? How had this happened right next door? Inside the police station, Brandon finally spoke. He admitted to everything. He said he bit Lily because she wouldn't eat her dinner. He called it discipline. He claimed he didn't mean to kill her, that he simply lost control. But no one believed that was enough of an explanation for what he had done. Kayla, once a trusting mother who thought she had found love again, now faced a nightmare she couldn't escape. Her daughter was gone. The child she had promised to protect was dead at the hands of someone she let into their lives. And nothing she said or did could change that. The evidence was overwhelming. Pictures of Lily's injuries, medical reports, and Brandon's confession all pointed to the same horrifying truth. A 6-year-old girl had been brutally tortured to death in her own home. And the person responsible was the one who should have protected her. The trial began months later, but the memory of Lily's death still haunted the town. People filled the courtroom, unable to forget the details of the crime. Reporters lined up outside, capturing every moment, every word. Brandon sat silently at the defense table, emotionless. He didn't look sorry. He didn't even seem to care. The prosecutor laid out the horrifying evidence. The photos of Lily's body made the jury gasp. 52 bite marks covered her small frame. Some were deep enough to reach bone. Experts explained that the injuries were not accidental or caused in a moment of panic. They were intentional, repeated acts of violence. Each bite had been a choice. Brandon's defense was weak. His lawyer claimed he had a troubled childhood, that he was too young to fully understand his actions. But no one in the courtroom believed. That was a reason to hurt a child. Brandon's own confession sealed his fate. He admitted to biting Lily, claiming it was punishment for refusing to eat. He described how he cleaned her wounds afterward, thinking she would survive. His words were cold, without emotion. The jury didn't need long. After only a few hours of deliberation, they found him guilty of first-degree murder and child abuse. The judge sentenced Brandon to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The courtroom sat in silence as the sentence was read. Brandon showed no reaction. He was led away in handcuffs, never to walk free again. But while justice was served, in the courtroom, the damage left behind couldn't be undone. Kayla sat in the back of the courtroom, her face pale and hollow. She didn't speak to anyone. Some blamed her for Lily's death, saying she should have seen the signs, should have protected her daughter. Others pitied her, believing she had been manipulated by Brandon. But for Kayla, blame didn't matter. She lived with the unbearable truth. Her trust had killed her child. After the trial, Kayla disappeared from the public eye. She moved out of town, unable to face the people who once called her a friend. She left behind Lily's grave, which became a symbol of sorrow in the local cemetery. People visited often, leaving flowers, teddy bears, and handwritten notes. Some visitors were strangers, mothers who couldn't imagine the pain Lily must have felt, or teachers who regretted not doing more. The house where it all happened stood empty for months, until it was finally demolished. Neighbors said they couldn't bear to look at it anymore. The pain was too fresh. The memories too dark. Lily's story spread beyond the town. Her case appeared on news channels across the country. People everywhere asked the same painful question. How did no one help her? How did a 6-year-old girl suffer for so long without anyone stepping in? In the end, Lily's death became more than just a tragedy. It became a lesson, a chilling reminder that danger isn't always from strangers. Sometimes the real monsters hide behind smiles. Sometimes they're invited into homes by those who trust them the most. Her small life, stolen by someone trusted to protect her, would never be forgotten. Lily's story was a silent scream that no one heard in time. And now it serves as a warning that every bruise, every tear, and every silence must be noticed before it's too late. Asterisk.